Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's program with the Schaumburg Library, Cut the Chaos, Reduce the Stress. I'm Chris Corrigan, the Adult Programs Coordinator here at the library, and I am so happy to be spending this evening with you tonight, and of course, our speaker, who I will bring up here in just a second. Before we start the program formally, I just want to go over some friendly Zoom reminders before we jump right in. Remember that your cameras and microphones have been turned off this evening, and that you can turn on closed captions at any point you'd like if you'd like that extra little bit of help with hearing what's going on by using the services on your toolbar. There should be a button there for turning on those closed captions, and if they're already on, you don't want them on, you can turn them off from there as well. If at any point tonight during the program you're having a technical difficulty, I am not a technical wizard, but I do have a few tech tricks up my sleeve, and I might just be able to help you out. I'll be monitoring the Q&A specifically this evening for any specific technical issues, and there's a special reason for that. If you've done a virtual program with us before, normally we ask that you kind of put questions in as we go, and we'll take them at the end. But tonight's speaker is a little bit more interactive with that and is going to be asking you guys to use the chat throughout the program. So I'm going to leave the chat box for Jennifer tonight so that she can have so much fun with you guys and teaching you guys as we come together today and learn. You'll also see on your screen, if you've probably already answered it, a poll just for us to know how many of you guys are watching at home tonight, just so we know how many people out there in the community we're reaching. Without further ado, I'd like to actually turn things over to Jennifer Barnes, our speaker tonight. And Jennifer told me she's ready to introduce herself. She's doing most of my job for me. So I'm going to get off into the background. I'm going to stop sharing my screen here and take it away, Jennifer.
All right. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Thank you for honoring me with your time and spending an hour looking at a screen. I really do appreciate that, and I value your time. So we will get started right away. I'm going to share my screen. Let's see, one second. Let's get this started. Hang on here. All right, there we go. And as Chris said, I love to interact. So I'm going to use the chat feature. And if you guys have any questions throughout the program, if you want to put them in the chat, I'd like to try to answer them as I go, if that is at all possible. If it's something that's quite unrelated, that is no problem. I will do it at the end. But as much as I can, I like to do it as I go. And I also like to try to interact with you guys. So first thing is, tell me who's in your household. Is it just you? Is it you and a partner? Is it you and 5 kids? Is it you and 10 iguanas? I mean, whoever it is and whatever it is in your household, go ahead and put it in the chat. Because if we were in person, you might have been chatting with the people next to you as you waited. Or I might have been chatting with you. So I think it's kind of fun to see who I'm talking to, and also who else is watching with you. I think that's kind of nice. And I did have someone say one time they had I think it was 3 iguanas, 4 cats, 4 dogs, and some parakeets. It was crazy. So there is not a right or wrong answer in that. It just gives me an idea. So thank you so much for doing that, you guys. So tonight we're talking Organizing 101, Time and Task Management. It's cut the chaos, reduce the stress, the impact of good time and task management. All right, so let me, hang on a second. There we go. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to ask you, this is what I mean by interacting, is put a number 1 in the chat if you think you waste time on social media during the day. So just put a number 1 in the chat, and there should be tons of ones, because I get the feeling that there's quite a bit of us who waste time on social media during the day. And again, this is not judgment. I promise you, there's no judgment on this. It is purely you'll see in a second. So now put a number 2 in the chat if you feel like you have a good time and task management system. So if you feel like you have a good time and task management system, put just a number 2 in the chat for me. And again, just gives me kind of an idea where everybody's at. No judgment at all, and no one to feel guilty or anything like that. All right, so look at these statistics. If you felt like you were all alone when I asked the last question, look at these statistics. The average daily time that people spend online on their mobile devices is 3 hours and 36 minutes. So if you put a 1 on the wasting time on social media, you are not alone. You are not alone. 3 hours and 36 minutes. You and I both know we can pick up our phone and start scrolling. And before we know it, a half hour goes by, an hour. It is so easy to have happen. And you're not alone in that. 82% of people do not feel like they have a good time and task management system. So I noticed again, only a couple of you put that you did, and that's okay. You probably wouldn't be here if you felt really great about that. But again, you are not alone. 82% of people feel like they do not have a good time and task management system. And I bring this up because it is so easy to go, oh, look at everybody else and go, oh, they have it all together. They never struggle with the chaos. Here's your proof that that is not true if you needed it. All right. So that's why I like to give this kind of information to start. All right. Now, my name is Jennifer Barnes. This is my family. My husband, Craig, and I have 5 children. We had 5 children in 5 years. We had a set of twins, which is how that is physically possible. I only let you know this so you know I understand chaos. It is not for a comparison factor. It is not so you can say, oh, she has 5 kids and she's sitting upright and I have 2 and I am in a fetal position. No, this is not a comparison game. This is purely so you know that I understand chaos. I years ago heard an organizer speak and she was wonderful. But I found out at the end it was her in a studio apartment by herself. And I just remember thinking, oh, I had 5 kids under 5 at the time. And I just remember thinking, gosh, if I was only me in one room, I feel like I'd be able to do this better. It's the chaos that gets me. So I may not be walking in your shoes. Your chaos is going to be different than mine, which is different than your neighbors or your sisters or your friends. But just know that I at least understand chaos and what it means to deal with time and task management with a lot of personalities and a lot of different people and craziness. Okay, so it's important to me that you know that I'm coming to you from a place of understanding. That there is my dog, Louie. He's only there because he's so darn cute. There's really no other reason than that. He's just so darn cute. So there you go. Okay. Now, I am a professional organizer and speaker. I speak all over the country on organizing, parenting, and personal and small business development. I absolutely love it. I speak in person as well as virtually, obviously. I love all the different avenues of them. I speak at libraries, schools, conferences, businesses, church groups, you name it. And that's really close to my heart. I've been doing this for almost 25 years and met a lot of people and been able to just help a lot of people, and they've helped me in a lot of sharing. I do work with individual clients on organizing their spaces, on time and task management. My joy is teaching people to organize. I always tell people that I specialize in real organizing for real people doing real life. We do not live on HGTV. We might want to live on HGTV, but we don't. And organizing has to work in the real world. And that's really what I specialize in. I teach people to organize. I work myself out of a job all the time because I'd rather teach people and have them be able to do it on their own than have to keep needing me. So I have clients that move other places and text me and send me pictures and say, look what I did based on what you taught me. I love that. So that's a little bit about what I do and why I'm talking to you about organizing and time and task management. Now, look at this calendar. Anyone put a 1 in the chat if this resonates with you. My calendar is way overbooked and I'm 3 months behind in work. I don't have time to attend a time management seminar. Well, you're here, so you did that. But does this resonate with you where you're like, I'm so overwhelmed? I always laugh. In my opinion, when they make a cartoon or a comedy sketch about something, then I know I'm not alone. Because the only things they make comedy sketches and cartoons about are things that affect all of us. So next time you see a cartoon or comedy sketch that resonates with you, just know it resonates with everybody. That's why they do it. So just a little humor to start out. Now, about organizing and time and task management, this is what I want you to think, is good organization should breed independence, responsibility, and delegation, not more work for the organizer. So how many of you guys put a 2 in the chat if you've ever thought this? I'm going to get organized so I can do more things. Just put a number 2 if you've thought that. I'm going to get organized so I can do more, right? we oftentimes think that, and that's okay. That's a very common thought. I, in a way, want you to kind of throw that out. I want you to get organized so that you can give more work away more easily. So I'm going to say that again. We get organized, whether it be time and task management, our space, whatever it is, not so we can do more, but so we can more easily give work away, whether it be at home, whether it be at work, whether it be at volunteer places, whatever it is. Good organization should breed independence, responsibility, and delegation, not just more work for you. Okay, deal? So organizing also, it's very personal. I asked everybody who's in their household. You saw all the different answers. Now, if I asked you guys, what does your house look like? You get all different answers. If I asked you what your schedule looks like, you would get all different answers. So it's very personal, and that's okay. I want you to be where you are. That is very important. So if I tell you, a tip that I give, if it seems like it's not going to fit, twist it and turn it and maybe change it a little, alter it a little to fit your life. That's okay. And not everything is for everybody, and that's okay. So it's very personal. On the other side of organizing, it's also really broad. You guys can probably think of organizing magazines, HGTV shows, books, talks, you name it, podcasts, everything. So it's very broad. So much can be said on organizing. In fact, I have probably about 40 different talks on different aspects of organizing, and this is one of them. So it's kind of one piece of the pie. So I want you to know that. So if you came expecting to hear about a very specific thing and I don't cover that specific thing, I truly apologize. There's just so much to be said. And this is one talk, so one aspect of it. So organizing is very personal, but it's also very broad. And I think that's good to be aware of as we go forward. All right. Why bother looking at time and task management? Now, you might be like, because I need help with it. That's easy. Well, I think it's really important to understand our why, because our why is what motivates us to do the how. So I use this example. If someone says to me, Jen, you need to eat better, I'd say, okay, I probably need to eat better. You're right. Okay. But then maybe 2 days later, I go to my doctor and they say, you're 5 points away from being diabetic, so you need to change how you eat. Guess what? I'm all of a sudden more motivated because I know my why and I'm motivated to do the how. So I think it's really important, anything that you want to change in your life, to look at what the why is so that we're motivated to do the how. Now, our health and well-being are too important not to do everything that we can to improve them. And it is proven. There are studies out there all over the place that good time and task management has a huge impact on our health and well-being. In fact, probably about 15 years ago, the first time I gave this talk was actually to a hospital. And they asked me to come in and talk about the health benefits of time and task management. So it is so poignant. And it is so true that it impacts us mentally, the mental health, physically, psychologically, financially, in all those different ways. So I do a lot of work with mental health aspects because so much of organization and our clutter in our brains is also reflected in clutter in our space and the clutter in our schedule and our tasks and things like that. So some big whys behind why bother looking at it. So what we're going to do and our takeaways is we're going to look at time differently. And you'll understand what I mean by that in a second. We're going to pinpoint what is really important for you to do. We're also going to learn to look at tasks differently and assign them to a schedule. And then we're going to examine certain tools that help us manage our time and tasks efficiently. So just so you have an idea what I want you to walk away with after this. All right, time. This elusive thing of time. So many times we look at time in terms of hours, blocks of hours. We go, okay, if I have free time, we look for hours. If I have, things like that. So what I want you to think about is, in my opinion, there is only one time in our life that we have unlimited time and energy. So think about this. When you're in your late teens, maybe early 20s-ish, we tend to have pretty good amount of time and a pretty good amount of energy. Okay. And we get a little bit older and we have maybe a family, we have a career, we have stronger relationships, whatever it is, and we have less time, but our energy is still okay. And then we get out the other end and maybe we're retired and we have more time again, but we don't have energy. So we have unlimited time and energy one time in our life, late teens, early 20s, and we don't appreciate it. That's the fact. So, but the point is really we are looking at time. We need to look at time in terms of 5, 10, 15-minute increments of time and energy. We cannot look at time in terms of hours, blocks of hours, because we don't have blocks of hours of time and energy. The majority of people have small increments of time and energy available to them. So we need to change the way we look at time and stop looking for huge amounts of hours of time and energy and start looking for little blocks of time and energy. So I want you to think of this. How many of you guys have organized or cleaned your garage or basement or storage area on your to-do list for a very long time? Put a 1 in the chat if that sounds familiar to you. If you have some big project like that. I always say garage because that's the one that haunts our to-do list. I see a lot of 1s coming. Yeah, we have, clean out the garage, and it sits there and sits there and sits there on our to-do list. And that's what I call haunting our to-do list. When something sits on my to-do list for a long time, I say that it haunts my to-do list. So our garage or our storage area or basement, that haunts most people's to-do list. The reason it does is because that takes hours to do, right? Sometimes days. And our brain goes, oh, I don't have days. I don't have blocks of hours, so I can't do that project. So we're going to shift and look at time in terms of 5, 10, 15-minute increments of time and energy. And I'm going to help you to put things into that time. But it's really important from here on out, we look at time in terms of small blocks of time, because that is feasible. That's something we can find. All right. Now, important. So when I say good time and task management has an impact on our health, I'm using the acronym IMPACT. So that's easy to remember. I love acronyms. It's fun and easy to remember things. The first part, IM, is important. When we're looking at time and task management, remember we have small blocks of time and energy. Okay. And first thing we have to do is what's important to us. What is important? We have to prioritize. If we have small blocks of time and energy, we need to figure out what are the most important things to put in them. So this is something I have people do at least 3 times a year. When I work with clients on time and task management, I tell them, go through and write down what are your top 10 priorities in your life, not organizationally, not house project, in your life. What is important to you? Now, it is no fair putting each member of your household as a different priority. That's cheating. I want you to think. So while I'm talking, you can do this. Write down what are the things that are important to you. Again, not organizationally, not things like that. I want you to know what is important to you. Is it family? Is it faith? Is it friends? Is it travel? Is it, hospitality? What is important to you? Write that down. That is really, really important. And then I tell people, and this is what I tell people, do this 3 times a year: January, June, and August, September. And even if you don't have kids or you don't follow the school calendar, do it those 3 times, because those are times that are shifts in our schedules. They're shifts in our mentality. One is New Year. The next is summer starting. And it doesn't matter whether you have kids in school or not, or whatever it is. We still shift a little in those times. Same thing with going into fall. Things shift. So reevaluate your priorities. Write down what's important to you. Then take the top 5. Your daily to-do list should reflect these top priorities. Make sure what you're spending your time on, and your energy and your money is in agreement with your priorities. Now, this is a test for you, and I have people do this, and it's hard. It's a simple test, but it's hard mentally. I want you, after you look at write your priorities down, I want you then to look at your calendar and your bank statement. And I want you to see if what you say is important is the same as what your time and your finances are saying is important. Oh, painful, right? And honest, really, to be honest, with so many of us, so many times it doesn't match up. We say something's important and what we're spending our time and money on isn't the same. So it's a really good test. And it's not to make anyone feel bad. It's just a really good way to kind of say, am I doing what I should be doing? Or do I need to change my priorities? Or do I need to change what I'm spending my time and money on? Your choice, but do that. Okay. So write your priorities and then look at your calendar and your bank statement and see if it gels. All right. So there you go. That's your first thing. You got to figure out what's important. Very first thing. So are your priorities truly reflected in your daily to-do list? Are we spending a lot of time and energy on things that maybe we shouldn't be? That's the key. The secret to time management, you could say that, the word no. That's hard. That's hard. Okay. Next part of impact is permission. So once you have your priorities, you've kind of figured that out, we have to give ourselves permission to let go of the things that don't match our priorities. That's hard. It is hard. It is, the things I'm telling you are simple, but they're not always easy. Organization is pretty simple. It's just not always easy. Exercising is pretty simple. It's not always easy, right? Eating well is simple. It's not always easy. So things like this, when I'm saying give ourselves permission to let go of things that don't match your priorities, is look at this and go, okay, what can I maybe let go of? Either I delegate it to somebody, permission to delegate. That's hard. Some of us have a really easy time delegating. Other people don't. So put a 2 in the chat if you have no problem delegating to others, if that's pretty easy to you. Because with some people, it's really easy. Other people, they're like, I have a really hard time letting go. So anyone here good at delegating? Anyone here? That can be hard. That can be really, really hard. But I want you to look at your priorities and go, okay, what do I need to let go of? Maybe just not do. And then the next part is, what can I give to somebody else to do? That's an okay thing to do. All right. So you might say, what does this have to do with the organization of things or what I'm going to do with my time and tasks? Again, we unfortunately, I wish I could tell you, you can do everything. You can do everything. We can't do everything. So in order to get a handle on our tasks and our time, I want you to really make sure you're able to put the things that are really important in there and then get rid of the other ones. It doesn't mean that they always have to not be done. Maybe it's for a season. That's why I tell you to look at your priorities 3 different times throughout the year, because sometimes things change and something else falls to the top and it's a new priority and we can do it then. Okay. So that doesn't mean once you say these are my priorities, you're stuck with them forever. Okay. We reevaluate and we do this again. All right. So permission to let go of the things that don't match our priorities, permission to delegate things to others. It's okay. You don't have to do it all. You don't have to do it all. All right. The next part is assign. What I mean by that is we're assigning first boundaries. All that is making a schedule. So I want you to look at this. What are the things that you have to do and put them in a schedule? So get your calendar, get one of the tools, and we'll talk about that next, is get the things and put in the ones that are obvious. If you go outside the home to a job, then there's certain boundaries. You have a start time and you have an end time. If your kids go to a camp, you have a start time and end time. These are simple things. Plug those in. Put those boundaries on. We have to put these boundaries. Work makes us do that because we often have a start time and an end time. School makes us do that. We have a start time and end time. Those are easy boundaries to do. Okay. And you also look at if there's something, if you want to exercise, then I want you to put that in because that's a boundary. Put that in. If you're like, I want to do this 3 times a week, then put a boundary in Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or whatever it is, where you have a start and end time when you exercise. Assign boundaries to them. Make a little bit of a schedule. Start out with your skeletal schedule of things that are required first. Okay? Just do that. Don't do the things you have to do yet. Just the things, the places, events that are required, put those in. Do that first so you have your skeleton of your schedule, you have assigned those boundaries. The next thing is assigning tasks to that schedule. So many times we can have a to-do list and our brain looks at a to-do list. I work with a lot of people with ADD and ADHD, and a whole to-do list, a lot of times we look at it and we go, everything just kind of blurs. Nothing seems important. It's hard to pick out what to do. So I tell people, take 3 things each night from your to-do list and schedule them at specific times in the next day. When we schedule things, our brain elevates them in importance. Our brain automatically goes, ooh, laundry, 10 o'clock, I have to do that. It's a mental game, but it works. So when we schedule things, it elevates it in importance. So when I say like schedule exercise as part of, put a boundary on that, do that because it elevates it in importance. So look at your priorities and take some of those things and schedule them. It is amazing what having them on our schedule does to elevate them in importance and remind us to do them and get us doing them. Okay, so assign tasks to the things. Look at your priorities and assign tasks to the schedule. Use that schedule. Use your schedule. Whatever you do, so many times people are like, oh, I'll remember to do that. No, I don't want you to have to remember to do anything. You free your brain up for fun things. Free your brain up for fun things. So I want you to put everything on that schedule, because then all you have to do is look at it and you don't have to remember it. Okay. So assign boundaries and assign tasks to the blocks of time. Now, the next part. So we had boundaries, the examples of boundaries, like I said, we had exercise, we have work. And the reason we set these boundaries also is they're really good for kids too. So if you have kids at home, putting boundaries and having a schedule is really helpful to them, because they go to school and guess what? There's a schedule. The real world works on schedules. If you go to a job outside the home where there's a schedule. So it's a our brain is used to it and it actually thrives on it. Now, the next part is categories. We have all these tasks, right? You did your schedule because you have your events. I want you to look at the tasks that you have to do. There's 2 categories of tasks. One is tasks you can complete. An example is if you have a meeting, you have a beginning and end to your meeting. That's pretty self-explanatory. Like I said, easy to assign boundaries, easy to put that in there. You have to pick your child up from school, it's at a certain time. Those are pretty easy. The second category, not so much. Tasks that are necessary, sometimes fun, but you can't complete them or they're repeating. They seem to never end. These things are harder to schedule as a whole. You need to break them down into small pieces. The example I give at home is laundry. So tell me, does anybody feel like their laundry is never ending? Put a 2 in the chat if you feel like, if that is something in your house where you feel like it is just always there, right? Oh, come on, I know there's more people. I know there's more people that is something, right? The laundry, how do we schedule that? That's the big thing. Another one is answering emails. So if you're at work, right? How many that resonates with is we answer an email, another one comes in, you're never done. So this is what I tell people to do. Take your laundry, schedule, do 1 person a day. If you have multiple people in your household, then do 1 person's laundry each day, because you can finish that. Now they're wearing an outfit, so you can't, you're never going to be completely done, but you can have them each have their own laundry basket, and you do that laundry basket, wash it, dry it, give it to them to put away, you're done. Okay, that's one way. Another way is maybe you can schedule, again, you can assign people days. You can also maybe do whites on one day, darks on another. So break them down into a manageable amount. So your brain can say, I finished that. Okay, so if you just put laundry, it's very hard to schedule. But if you do it that way, it's a way to break it down into bite-sized pieces. Answering emails. You can do 2 things. You can answer the 10 most recent, right? In a 5, 10, 15-minute increment of time. Or, this is my favorite, you can answer yesterday's emails because yesterday already started and ended. So that's a finite amount of emails. So you can answer the emails that came in yesterday, finish those, and then you're done. And then the next day you do the same thing. Okay. So there's different ways, but do that so you can schedule that, or you can say, hey, no, I'm doing 15 minutes of emails. And that's how you can assign a boundary. So break those category 2, those tasks, we need to break down into smaller segments in order to put them on our schedule and get boundaries and assign them categories. Okay. So the categories, be aware of these categories. It helps us look at your to-do list and look at your tasks and priorities and go, oh, this one I need to break down. This one I can just plug in. It just helps to kind of quantify it a little bit. Now, the last part is tools. There are several tools to manage our time and task efficiently and lower stress. And I cannot stress these enough. The first one is one calendar. You notice I have that all in caps. So how many of you guys have more than one calendar? Put a 1 in the chat if you have more than one calendar for daily life managing everything. More than one calendar for daily life managing. All right. So now I'm going to tell you. Think of this. I use this. Thank you guys for telling me. I use this example. I call it the monsoon gutter analogy. Okay. Every afternoon in Florida in the summer at about 3 o'clock, what does it do? Anyone write the answer, put the answer in the chat. What does it do at like 3 o'clock in Florida every afternoon in the summer for like 15 minutes? Rain. Yes, it does. You might be like, Jen, what does this have to do with organizing? This is what it has to do with organizing. Is that rain is a monsoon rain, right? 15 minutes of torrential downpour. That could be really damaging, right? It's a hard rain. But whoever the genius is that created gutters, we put these gutters on our house, and it doesn't decrease the amount of rain that comes down. So when we had rain, last weekend or a couple weekends ago, 4th of July weekend, I think it was, and we had all that rain, different areas, we don't decrease the amount of rain coming down, but a gutter funnels it into one spot. So that makes it less damaging to our homes. So I can't necessarily tell you, here's a magic way to have less to do. Now, there are things, like I said, prioritize and all of that kind of stuff I told you. But in general, we are a busy people. We have a lot of information. We have a lot of tasks. We have a lot of everything thrown at us all the time. So we can't necessarily always decrease the amount of things coming at us that we have to do. But what we can do is funnel it into one daily life managing calendar to make it less stressful and less damaging. So people would always say to me, Jen, you're too busy. You're too busy. And I used to look at them and say, which child would you like me to eliminate? Because meaning I felt so much like a family of 7. I can't cut anything out anymore. I can't tell one kid, you can't do something because we're busy with the other 6 of us. So I always was so frustrated by that statement. So I'm not necessarily going to tell you, like, you got to cut something out. You got to look at your priorities and you figure that out. But if you have everything in one daily life managing calendar, now you may have one calendar for work and one calendar for home. That's fine, because work is a separate entity. It is important oftentimes to have boundaries between home and work. So that is okay. But I don't want you to have, like, posted on a bulletin board, the library calendar, the church calendar, the preschool calendar, the community center calendar, the soccer calendar, all of them. I want you to put it into one calendar. One calendar, and I cannot say that enough. So those 3 times a year I said to look at your priorities, I want you to take, so January, June, and August, September, I want you to take that time also and take all those calendars that are released and put them into one calendar. Think of that gutter example. It makes it less damaging. And I have clients all the time say, Jen, but I have everything on a bulletin board. It's all posted there. I don't need to put it on one calendar. when we have to look at 5 different calendars, we are more likely to forget something, more likely to miss an appointment. We are more, and it just is extra stress on our brain. So one calendar. Now, I have a whole different talk on digital organization and digital organization tools, so I'm not going to get into it too much here, but the digital versus paper calendar. So how many of you guys put a 2 in the chat if you do a digital or like online calendar, like on your phone or things like that? Put a 2 in the chat if you do an electronic calendar, just to kind of see where everybody is. Again, not a right or wrong. We're not going to get into what's, what you have to do and all that. Okay, so a decent number of you have the digital calendar. Now, how many of you guys do a paper calendar and only a paper calendar? Put a 1 in the chat if you do only a paper calendar. So some people, okay. And again, this is all I'm going to tell you with that, is I want you to remember, digital can give you paper. Paper cannot give you digital. So what I mean by that is if you use Google Calendar, you can print out a day at a glance, a week at a glance, a month at a glance, and you can have a paper copy hanging. Because some people like that. But if you have paper, you can't get the digital from that. So that is the one reason, that's one of the reasons why I oftentimes recommend a digital one, is because you can get the paper from that. And that is a really important thing. But I do work with clients on the digital organization tools, and it is huge because like I said, I have a whole nother talk on that aspect. But I do want you to think, but either way, I want you to have one calendar. Now, another thing is, if you have multiple people, like kids in your family or, a partner or whoever, someone says I take a photo on my phone for the week. Absolutely. And I will tell you, like when I go out of town, I print out for my family or whoever's in my house. We have fewer people in our house now, but I print out a week at a glance that has, if there's things that I need them to be aware of. And I print that out and I have that sitting on, I post it for them just because they're not always attuned to the digital calendar with my stuff. So I like them to be aware. So there's just different ways to do that. But if you have multiple people in your house, if you have a digital calendar, you can share that calendar with everybody. If you have kids, if they have a phone, share that calendar. Share that digital calendar. They should be putting their activities in. They can be doing and I will tell you, when I worked for some college students, one of them called their parents after they went away to their freshman year in college. And they had Business 101. They called their mom and said, hey, I already did my homework. And she said, oh, great. What was it? And it was to set up a Google Calendar. Major university, Business 101, the first thing they have them do is set up a Google Calendar. If you can get your kids used to that ahead of time, you're setting them up for success in the way things are now. So one calendar. Digital, there's a lot of advantages. We'll talk more about that. I can answer questions and stuff about that too. The next tool is one to-do list. One daily life managing to-do list. Okay, be honest with me, you guys. How many of you guys have more than one daily life managing to-do list going? Put a number 1 in the chat if you have more than one daily life managing to-do list active. So again, you are not alone on this. You are not alone in this. Thank you for being honest, you guys. Again, think of that gutter example. Think of the funneling. When we have one daily life managing to-do list, and you notice I use the term daily life managing, that's because we can have, like if you have a week of vacation in the summer and you're going to do house projects during that week, then you may have a house project list. That's different. That's not our daily life managing. That's not the things you need to do on a daily, weekly basis. That's a special projects. That's, I need to paint the shingles or paint the shutters, or I need to, I don't know, trim the bushes outside, whatever it is. If there's special project, it's okay to have a separate special project list. Like I do a talk on spring cleaning and we talk about how to do like a spring cleaning list. That's a different thing. Your daily life managing is things you have to do daily or maybe weekly. Okay. So I want you to have one daily life managing list. Now, again, you can have a separate work list because having those boundaries between work and home is very healthy. That's not a bad thing. Okay. So have one daily work managing list and have one daily home life managing list. Now, this is the thing is I want you to write everything on that list. If you think I have to go ... that thing goes on your calendar. If you think I need to do ... that item goes on your to-do list. Very important. So many times we have to make a phone call and we go, I'll remember that. We don't write it down. Does that put a 2 in the chat if that resonates with you? How many times do you go, oh, I need to do this, and you don't write it down? You just think I'm going to remember it. Put a 2 in the chat if you do that, right? We do that. We do that all the time. Sophia, I know you're not alone on that. There's just not, other people are not putting the 2. I know people do that. Is we go, I need to make that phone call. I need to do that. I need to talk to, and we don't write it down. We just go, I need to remember it. And then it becomes kind of like that. Do you remember that old game where we'd say, I'm going on a trip and I'm packing a suitcase and I'm going to bring my pants. And then the next person goes, I'm going on a trip and I'm packing a suitcase and I'm going to bring pants and a shirt. And it goes down the line, right? You remember that? Put a 1 in the chat if you remember that. That kind of kids game. But what we do when we don't write our tasks down is we are essentially making ourselves remember all the things. That's stressful. That's stressful. If you write it down, anything if you think I need to do ... I want that on your list. Now, you might go, Jen, I'd have 50 things on my list. I can't do that. Well, you may have 50 things on your list, but at least you know what they all are. Because how many of you guys do this? Put a 2 in the chat if you go and you say, oh, I have 15 minutes to work. What am I going to do? And you spend 5-10 minutes of that trying to remember what you needed to do. Put a 2 in the chat if that sounds familiar, right? We have a little bit of time to work, and then we spend half of that trying to figure out what we want to do with that time. If you have everything on your list, when we have our 15 minutes free, or we have time or energy to do something, all we have to do is pick up that list and start. No thought needed. Now, remember what I said. If you have that big list, part of what we can do where assigning boundaries is we can go, oh, every night, take 3 things from that list, schedule them at specific times the next day. When you do them, look at your list again and schedule 3 more at specific times, because it will elevate those things in importance. You'll be more likely to get them done because they are scheduled. Okay. So our one calendar, anytime you think I need to go ... I want you to put that on your calendar so that you don't have to remember. Second thing, our daily life managing to-do list. Anytime you think I need to do ... it goes on your to-do list. Free your brain up for the fun things. Okay, that is so important. And I promise it helps. The last tool is a timer. And you might be like, well, Jen, that's a dumb tool. That's not very exciting. Well, timers are magical. They really, truly are. They are magical. When we set a timer, our brain goes into efficiency mode. We work differently. We work more efficiently. We work harder. Subconsciously, we do when there's a timer set. Now, if you don't believe me, think about this. If somebody calls you and says, or I'll use me as this, if someone calls me and says, hey, Jen, I'm in town. Can we get together? You say, sure. And they say, okay, I'll be over in 20 minutes. And they hang up the phone. How many of you guys are the most efficient people in the entire universe? If someone just said, I'll be over in 20 minutes and hangs up the phone. Put a 2 in the chat if you would be the most efficient person in the world during that 20 minutes. We've all had that. There's tons of twos, you guys, because someone says they're coming over and they hang up. We are all of a sudden crazy. We clean things up like never before. We are motivated like never before. It is amazing what it does to our brain. And they essentially, what they did is they said, you have 20 minutes, a timer starts now, go. That's what they did. And our brain goes into efficiency mode. We work differently, we act differently, we are more efficient. If you still don't believe me, any teachers, then maybe some of you guys are teachers. If you think about it, in school, my husband is a high school math teacher. Now, they do not say to the kids in math class, or someone says, my 10-year-old schedules for a task, an end time finished by dinner, finish it. Yeah, it is. Yeah, if you schedule a certain time, that's basically like doing a timer. But think about this in schools. In a math class, they don't say, whenever you get a chance, finish your math test. They don't do that. No one would be efficient. What they do is they say, okay, you have 50 minutes to do a math test. Timer starts now, go. Because our brains go into efficiency mode. Kids work differently that way. So remember that. It is huge. So what I'm going to tell you, use timers. Set a timer, not for an hour, not for an hour and a half. I want you to think of small increments of time. Remember, 10, 15 minutes of time and energy. Set a timer for 15 minutes, maybe 20. Do a task. Work on something. Now, if you have longer than that, then reset the timer. That's fine. It's okay. You can reset the timer 5 times. But what it does is it focuses you. You can also, like I said, we were trying to remember that category 2 of tasks, that things that don't finish. Maybe you say, you know what, I'm going to work on emails for 20 minutes. I'm setting a timer at 20 minutes. When that is done, I need to move to a different task. Fine. That's what you do with those big blocks, big tasks that don't end. Is you set a timer on it. That's how you do the boundaries. Because we have to put our own boundaries on things like that. Otherwise, we could answer emails for the entire day, some of us. Okay? So use that timer. It is amazing. Now, any of you have little kids or grandkids or little kids in your house? Put a 1 in the chat if you have little kids or, in your life or in your house that you regularly see. I'm just curious how, I know you guys had said who's in your house before, but put a 1 in the chat if any of you guys have little ones or middle school or what, doesn't matter. I'm just curious. So think about this. Timers help kids to leave us alone. And I'm serious. I'm very serious about this. You might be like, you are kidding me. Then no way. No, it very much does. The reason it works is kids bother, again, I love my kids dearly, but kids pester, right? They're like, mom, 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 grandma, 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 dad, 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 whatever it is. And what do we say to them? My kids would say, mom, mom, mom. And I would say, 1 minute, right? We all say that. We say 1 minute. And I used to joke that my poor children probably had no idea what a real minute was. A minute could have been a real minute. It could have been 10 minutes. It could have been a day. It could have been a week. So many things. So I used to joke that my poor children go to school and they'd be like, a minute? I have no idea what a minute is. But the reason they pester is because they don't know when their minute is coming. So if you have little ones in your life, and in any capacity, or even middle-sized ones in your life, is say to them, okay, you know what, mom or dad, I'm going to work for a little bit. I'm going to work for 15 minutes for this timer, and then I'm going to read to you for 15 minutes. Okay, so you set that timer, and you read to them for 15 minutes, and then you say, okay, now I'm going to set a timer, and I'm going to work for 15 minutes. And then after that, I'll set a timer again, and I'll read to you again. As long as you do that, if you read to them, you set that timer, then you set the timer for you, you work for 15 minutes. As long as you are true to that timer, and then you give them their time again, they will relax. They will relax and they will stop pestering because they know when their time is coming. So many times, it is very disconcerting to kids or grown-ups alike when we don't know when the time is coming. So we pester. right? Think about this. If you don't believe me, think about this. Remember the last time you were riding in a car, right? And what do kids say? They're like, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Okay. And they do that because they don't know when their time is coming. They don't know when it's going to end. That's disconcerting. Okay. So we do the same thing. We just look at our GPS. We don't say, are we there yet? We get to look at the GPS and our brain goes, are we there yet? And we look, right? So, but that's why it takes twice as long to get someplace than it is to get home. Or it feels like it takes twice as long to get to a place we don't know, right? We're driving and we've never been there before. It takes forever. We drive home from the same place. It seems to fly by. But that's because we know when the time, we don't know when the time is coming when we're going there. It's unknown to us. That's disconcerting. When we're going back, we know where we're going. We know the time and we relax. So timers do that. They help us to focus. They help the other people in our life to relax and let us focus. Okay, so set that timer, use that, whether you are by yourself and trying to focus and use your small bits of time efficiently, or whether you have little kids around you and you're trying to focus, it is a really good way to teach them. So your one calendar, your one to-do list, and set your timer. 3 huge tools for time and task management. All right. Now, maintaining. We have our time, we have our tasks, we have our schedule, right? We've done our priorities, figured out what's important. We have given ourselves permission to let go of what's not important. We have assigned boundaries. We've made our schedule, right? We looked at the categories of the different tasks so that we can plug them in easier. We're using our tools. Now, how do you maintain? Routines and habits are huge, Now, think about this. I need you guys to help me on this. Put a 1 in the chat if you feel like you can get ready for bed, half asleep and blindfolded. Now, if you have contacts or glasses, you may be half asleep and blindfolded when you're getting ready for bed. But put a 1 in the chat if you feel like you can get ready for bed without any thought or energy at all. Like there should be tons of ones. Because, right, that is a routine. Most of us have a routine. A lot of you guys, right? Most of us have a routine for getting ready for bed, and we don't have to think about it. We've done it so many times, we're exhausted, and we go through it, and half the time we don't even remember, right? Same thing, have you ever driven home and really honestly, and your brain is so in a different place, you get home and you're like, I don't even remember driving home. That sounds so embarrassing to say, but you know what I mean? Like you're definitely not under the influence or anything like that, but just it's so routine for you. You follow the same route all the time. Routines and habits are awesome because when we don't feel like doing them, the item or whatever it is, the task, we can go through those routines and habits blindfolded. It doesn't take energy. And when it's not zapping energy, we're more likely to continue to do it. So if exercise is a priority and you want to put that in, make it a routine. Try to do it the same time every day. Just have it be a routine, maybe with the same people or the same, you get dressed, you do the same things, routines. Then when we're not wanting to do it, we're more likely to keep going. Okay. Anytime for a task, you can make a routine out of it. Do that. Because those habits, those routines, we teach our kids this all the time. The getting ready in the morning and getting ready at night are key examples of it. So take some other tasks that you have to do, like paying bills. Who likes to pay bills? No one likes to pay bills. So make it a routine, meaning maybe you do it once a week. Or maybe you have a routine every time you get the mail, you pay whatever bill comes in. Or maybe you do it once a month, whatever yours is. Make it a routine. Same day, same time of day, as much as you can. Same things, because routines and habits will keep you able to do it when you're not motivated. Okay, so find your way. What are your priorities? What are the things that you are struggling with scheduling? Okay, and find your way. It's okay if you're like, you know what, Jen, my exercise is great. That's not a problem for me. That's not a priority. Fine. Find your thing and figure out how you can make that work. Okay, get others involved. Like I said, with your kids, if you have other people in your house, you don't need to be putting everything on the calendar. You can tell them. Now, it's easier with kids. It's harder with our spouses or partners, but you can say, you know, hey, we're doing this shared calendar. I need you to put everything, like by Friday, every Friday, everything has to be put in for the next week or whatever it is. Get other people involved. Remember, good organization breeds independence, delegation, and responsibility for other people, not more work for you. So just because you're getting the calendar together doesn't mean you have to put all those calendars in 3 times a year. Okay, so keep that in mind and have other people get involved. The last thing is rewards. If you're like, you know, yay, I did I did 3 things for my to-do list today. Yay me. Go get yourself a Starbucks and ice cream. I think I have a Diet Coke on there. That's usually my drug of choice, I always say. But find out, what is your reward? What do you like? Schools do rewards, businesses do rewards, but we forget when we are doing something like organizing or trying to improve something in our lives, we forget to reward ourselves. So when you do something and you do it well in terms of your time and task management this next week, I want you to reward yourself. Say, yay me, and reward yourself. If it's for your family, say if everybody puts their stuff in the schedule by the end of Friday, we're going to go out for pizza, or we're going to order in pizza, or have a frozen pizza, or watch a movie, whatever it is. Reward yourselves. That is huge in maintaining these and using the tools. Okay, so that gives you a little bit. Now, I gave you a ton of information. If you guys have any questions, you can start putting them in. I have no problem answering all different questions. Remember the impact of good time and task management. Make the impact a good one by deciding what's important. Give yourself permission to let go of what isn't. Assign boundaries to make a schedule and assign tasks to that schedule. Examine the categories of your tasks so you can efficiently schedule them. Remember the tasks that never end and the tasks that have a beginning and an end. Use those tools wisely. And this is what I want to leave you with. Is you are only allowed to fix one thing at a time. You cannot go after this and go, okay, guys, guess what? We're reevaluating our priorities. We're going to stop this activity. We're going to start this one. We're going to redo this. We're going to do our to-do list. You will have a mutiny. You will give up. Everybody else will give up. So I want you to just do one thing. If your one thing is you just write down your priorities, maybe talk to your family, what's their priorities, do that one thing. And then go on to your next. Please, please, please don't get overzealous. Start packing things in and get overwhelmed and give up. Okay. So one thing at a time is hugely important. All right. Now, you do not have to do this. It's just it just helps for me. So you guys probably all know what a QR code, but if you don't, you just point your camera of your phone at it and up will pop a link. And you just click on that link. This is also on the handout that they sent you. So the same QR code, all it is a survey from me. It gives me a little bit of feedback. I have no problem with criticism. Just don't be mean. I can take constructive criticism. Just don't be mean. But anyway, if you do this, what I do is at the end of each month, I take all the places I've spoke and all the people who have given feedback in the survey. And if you give me permission, I put you in a drawing for a free hour of virtual organizing. So that's, it's just my way to say thank you, and also gives me a little feedback so I can make sure that I'm giving you guys and helping in the way that is most helpful to you. So this I will also send Chris this link so he can send it out to everybody who registered. So you'll have it that way also if you prefer not to do the QR code. If you guys have any questions, like I said, I'm happy to answer them, and you can always contact me. You can follow me on any of the social media. I'm going to answer Teresa's question 1 second. You can follow me on all the social media. Every day I do encouragement information on a host of different things, or you can reach out and text me, email me, message me, whatever you want. And I do when I work with clients, I start with a free discovery consult. So if you're interested in that too, you can just go on my website and sign up for that. And it's no cost. We just see if it's a good fit. So Teresa asked, can you suggest a calendar to use on my phone instead of the generic Android app? I will say, and I get no money for this, so don't. Google Calendar is my favorite one. It really is. I have an iPhone and I have a Android, I have a Dell computer, so I do both. I'm not brand loyal to any certain one, but I will say this, Google makes their money playing well with everybody. Apple makes their money playing well with nobody. They are both billion-dollar companies, no criticisms, but Google Calendar is very, very good. It works on any type of phone. Like I said, I have it on my Apple phone. I can also look at it on my computer. Whatever it is, whichever one you choose, you want it to be web-based, not device-based. So make sure if you use a calendar on your phone that it is web-based, that you should be able to look at that same calendar on your computer, on your tablet, on your iPad, on your phone, doesn't matter what it is. So whatever you use, if you choose not to use Google Calendar, that's fine. But whatever you choose to use, make sure it is web-based, not just phone-based. Okay, does that make sense? I hope that helps, Teresa. But Google is a really, really good one. Anyone else have any other questions? You guys have been great. Thank you you're welcome. Thank you for participating. I appreciate it. It makes it much more exciting than just me talking to myself for an hour. So I really, really appreciate that. And like I said, if you think of any other questions later, feel free to ask me and reach out. And I appreciate you guys honoring me with your time. That was, I know that's not easy to stare at a screen for an hour, and I appreciate that.
Jennifer, I have a kind of a question. I
Sure.
like to ask my speakers to kind of wrap with something similar every time. If you could encourage, because you said, don't overwhelm yourselves, right? Everyone pick one thing. If you could encourage, we had a great audience tonight, and hopefully they don't just take this knowledge for themselves, but they share it with people in the community, and they share it with their friends and family, and their coworkers. What is the one nutshell, which is hard to do with a topic that you have 40 presentations on, right? But the one nutshell thing that everyone could take with them to help impart what you've taught us tonight with people in their lives.
Big thing I would say, look at your priorities. We have to have that, you have to have that as your benchmark. You have to have that as a benchmark, because we do so many things and we don't look at what's really important. So our priorities, and then do one thing at a time. And you probably noticed, Chris, that my sign off on my emails is one step at a time. That's how important that is to me. In my mind, there's no better way to handle tasks. There's no better way to handle space. There's no better way to handle life than literally one step at a time. And some days it's, I'm going to go to the bathroom. That's my next one thing. And other times it's, I'm going to go do make a phone call. But it's literally, depending on our mindset, one step at a time is, I think if you do nothing else, you take nothing else from this, literally that one little thing at a time is the best thing. So, and I noticed Marianne asked, can you print a calendar from your iPhone? You can. The iPhone, the iCal, all it is a interface. So you can access that under your iTunes, your iCal account. So it is web-based. I will tell you this, a lot of times people don't ever even know what their login is for their iCal, because so many times we signed up for our iPhones on our first iPhone, 15 years ago, and they're like, I don't even know what my email was that is based on because it was so long ago, and they don't access it on the web. So yes, Marianne, you can print it if you go on to the web version of your iCal. It's under your iTunes or your, that kind of thing. Teresa asked, is there a way to have an ongoing task list on your phone that will automatically move the task to the last day? Yes. Google Calendar has that. They have a task list, and it's really nice because you can schedule things. Like I give my dog his flea and tick medicine the first of every month. So I have that schedule, and it pops up on my task list the first of every month, and I don't have to think about it. And anything if I have a task that I scheduled today and I don't do it, it automatically appears tomorrow. So, which which is great and not great, because then I realize I have more on my list tomorrow. But the point is I don't have to rewrite my list all the time. So yes, the Google Calendar has that, which is, it's a task list built in. There are other apps, like there's a Toodle-Do app, and there's other apps like that do similar. But I love, again, if you can funnel it and have your to-do list and your calendar in one spot, that's even better. So best way to learn Google Calendar, look on YouTube and find a Google Calendar tutorial. They are all over the place. They are all over the place. Anything, Google is the #1 search engine. YouTube is the #2 search engine, and YouTube is actually owned by Google. So they kind of have a monopoly on the top 2 spots, but you can pretty much
I learned how
find
to
it.
fix my dishwasher on my own. I am not
Yes.
causing this because of YouTube. I cannot support what Jennifer just said more than YouTube will teach you how to use it.
Yeah, and again, I get no money from Google. So anyone thinking that I'm only saying I don't get any money from them, I'm telling you, they are universal. And I do have people say, but Jen, what if Google gets hacked and stuff like that? What about my stuff? I will tell you this, if Google gets hacked, you and I are the least of the problems, because Google is the interface for schools, businesses, massive infrastructures. And while, yes, I'm an important, we're important people, we are valued, we are nothing in the whole scheme of if Google gets hacked. That's all I'll say. So relax on that. Sorry if I offended anyone saying that with the, being lax on security. I'm not being lax on security. Google is very good about that. But really the bottom line is we're the least of the problems if Google goes down. So yeah, I hope that helps. And I don't see any other questions, but thank you so much, you guys. And you can reach out and I'm happy to answer. And I will send you an email, like I said, kind of a summary email, and you can feel free to take parts of it and send it to everyone or whatever.
Absolutely. Jennifer,
All
thank
right.
you so much for spending your time with us tonight. It was absolutely wonderful. I kind of wish you could just follow me and champion me every day. You're such a positive energy and individual.
Well, thanks.
So thank you so much for your time. And thank you everyone at home for spending your time tonight with Jennifer and I appreciate it. And it definitely sounds like Jennifer did as well. We hope to see you guys at so many more future programs with us at the Schaumburg Library. We have another one tomorrow evening about the Indian caste system that's virtual. So make sure to check that one out. And I know at the start in that top slide is a way, I thought it was a great connection to reducing stress. We're doing Pilates in Town Square outside the library at the end of the month. So make sure you go check that out. That's just dropping. You don't even need to register. That's like the easiest task to cross off your list.
That's awesome.
Show up, right?
Sounds good.
So I want to wish everyone a wonderful rest of your evening. Again, Jennifer, thank you. And everyone have a great evening.